What was happening in this country was pretty bad at certain times, certain places, and so there was a real need for someone to take control and to represent employees. So that's all, that's experience. That's history, right? So there's some good reasons why you'd have a union, right? And then there's some really abusive things that happen in unions, and there's really abusive things that happen with management. But I can give you a union story. So all that's said and done, there's pros to unions. Here's a negative. I'll give you a couple of them. The first one was, this is a story that's kind of a traditional industrial engineering story. I heard this when I was going through industrial engineering, and whether how true it is or how not true it is or who exactly it was, I'm not sure. But this is a traditional story. As an industrial engineer at University of Tennessee, they had a co-op program. And the co-op program took engineers out for a quarter and let them work for really good companies for a quarter to make enough money in order to pay for next quarter or next semester. And so it worked for a semester, study for a semester, work for a semester, study for a semester, and they'd go through summers like that. And it turned out it worked out pretty good. Well, this one industrial engineer goes to Detroit during the time when Detroit was the auto-making capital of the world, right? And so this guy decided that he was going to try to understand what it took just to be a good industrial engineer. So he's going to work the job. He's going to be a machinist. He's going to work a machine, do whatever the machine was doing, and so he would just see how well he could make it hum, how well he could do his job. And it was a good experience for him because he's going to apply this through his studies, right? And so it turns out that a little while into this, somebody comes up to him and says, you're making us look bad. We want you to slow down because you're going to be here for 3 months, and then you're going, and we're going to be here for 20 years. So you got to work the flow of the plant. So the guy said, okay, and he tried to slow down a little bit. We're still working too fast. And so they come in, the union guys come in a little more, and they give them a little more pressure and say, you're gonna slow down, or we're gonna mess you up. And so he starts coming back, and what happens is his tools are missing. So he's got to replace his tools, go and find tools, and come back to his machine and to make it happen. So they're doing little things to make him just slow down. So he comes back a couple more days, still not going slow enough. So now parts of his machine's broken. So now he's got to fix his machine. So he goes and he complains about it. He says, "This is what's happening to me. I'm trying to do good work, can't do good work, keep getting machines." So he gets fired for being a troublemaker, because it's easier to do that than to try to fix the system, right? And that was a traditional story that I've heard a bunch of times when I was going through school, way back a long time ago. This is what I experienced. I went to Cincinnati, Ohio, into a union plant, and we had a project going on for a large company. And there's about 20 people in a room this size. And so we were lined up all the way around the room, right, trying to get work done. So we got permission to expand the walls. There's a little temporary wall. You could almost do this with it, to expand it back to this size. So now there's 20 people working in this size, right? So I'm in charge. I'm the program manager, and my job is to move this wall, just make sure it gets done. So I find out who to call. So I call labor, and I said, okay, we need this wall moved. And so labor comes in, and his helper, well, first off, the carpenter, I call the carpenter. Carpenter comes in, and his helper, because it's a wall and it's got to be moved, right? So they got to undo some bolts and just move the wall and put it back together. Guy comes in, so this is week 1. Guy comes in maybe Tuesday of week 1, has his helper with him, looks at it and says, well, we can't do anything. I said, why can't you do anything? Because there's desks along this wall. And I said, well, we'll move the desk out to the middle and then you can get to it. He says, no, you can't do that, because that's a laborer's job, and you'll be taking work away from a laborer. And if you do that, that's going to be a problem. So the guy goes away with his helper. So I call another couple of days. So it's like end of the week, first week, right? Labor and his helper come, move the desk 5 feet, and they leave. Labor and his helper. So I call the carpenter back. Say, okay, Friday, right? We're ready to have the wall moved. We've got to move it so far. So carpenter comes back and says, can't do anything. I said, why can't you do anything? Because there's electricity going to this wall. You got to have an electrician. I said, well, man, I could have figured that out maybe. And so I said, okay. So that was Monday, the second week. So the carpenter, his buddy goes away. Sometime middle of the week, the electrician finally gets there, his buddy, and they disconnect electricity in that part of the wall. Go away. Week 2. So now called the carpenter back, and said, okay, we're ready to go. Everything's ready to go. As soon as the guy left, comes back beginning of the 3rd week. Looks at it, says, I can't do anything. I said, why can't you do anything? There's a phone line in this wall. I said, well, I can go over and kick the phone line out. There's no power to it. Very low volt. He said, no, you can't do that because then we'll have to write you up and it's a big problem and blah, blah. So you got to call a phone guy. So phone guy and I said, well, didn't the electrician move that? He said, no, it's a phone guy. So I call the phone guy. He brings his buddy, and they disconnect it. Now I'm getting smarter, right? So this is the 4th week, and we're all 20 people trying to get work done. So he's not just affecting me; it's affecting all these people, right? And so now I'm smarter. So I line everybody up in the right order, knowing who had to come first. First, the carpenter had come back, right? So carpenter moved it. And then everybody had to come back in the right order, put everything back. So for another week, it had to take this wall from here to back here somewhere, and it's flimsy. I mean, you could have moved it as easy as moving these desks. And so that was my experience.